Lena Lopez and Josh Cooper's paths first crossed on a crisp autumn evening. Lena, a 26-year-old art gallery curator, had recently moved to town to manage the prestigious Hartley Modern Art Museum. Josh, 28, cut a striking figure in his tailored suit, his family name carrying the weight of old money and influence in the community. Their eyes met across the crowded ballroom, and for Lena, it was as if the world stood still. She would later describe the moment to friends as electric, a connection so intense it felt like destiny. Josh, equally captivated by the enigmatic newcomer, made his way through the sea of tuxedos and evening gowns to introduce himself. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, touching on art, literature, and their shared love of travel. Lena was drawn to Josh's charm and wit, while he found himself enchanted by her passion and intelligence. As the night wore on, they slipped away from the gala, walking through the moonlit gardens of the venue, lost in conversation and the intoxicating beginnings of attraction. In the weeks that followed, Lena and Josh's relationship blossomed with the intensity of a summer storm. They were inseparable, attending gallery openings, enjoying intimate dinners at exclusive restaurants, and spending long weekends at the Cooper family's coastal retreat. To outsiders, they appeared to be the perfect couple, young, successful, and deeply in love. However, even in these early days, there were subtle signs that something wasn't quite right. Lena's friends noticed a shift in her behavior. The once independent and career-focused woman began to center her entire world around Josh. She obsessively checked her phone for messages from him and became visibly anxious when he didn't respond immediately. Josh's close friend Dominic Thorne recalled a particular incident that, in hindsight, should have raised alarm bells. About 2 months into their relationship, he met the couple for drinks at a local bar. When Josh excused himself to take a business call, Lena's demeanor changed dramatically. She grilled Dominic about Josh's past relationships, his female friends, and his daily routines when he wasn't around. The intensity of her questioning left Dominic feeling uneasy, though he brushed it off at the time as new relationship jitters. As the relationship progressed, Lena's need for constant contact and reassurance began to wear on Josh. He found himself having to account for every minute of his day, sending regular updates and photos to prove his whereabouts. At first, he found her attentiveness flattering, mistaking jealousy for passion, but slowly the demands began to feel suffocating. Despite these early warning signs, the couple's relationship continued to move at a whirlwind pace. Within 6 months, Lena had all but moved into Josh's penthouse apartment in downtown Highland Park. Her presence in his life was constant, her influence growing with each passing day. Little did Josh know that the woman he believed to be the love of his life would soon become his worst nightmare, setting in motion a chain of events that would lead to unimaginable tragedy. The Cooper name had been synonymous with success and influence in Highland Park for generations. Josh's great-grandfather, Cornelius Cooper, had founded Cooper Industries, a company that started in lumber but diversified over the years into real estate and technology. The family's sprawling estate on Willow Lane, with its manicured gardens and stately architecture, stood as a testament to their enduring prosperity. Josh's parents, Evelyn and Reginald Cooper, were pillars of the community. Reginald, now semi-retired, still held a position on the board of Cooper Industries and was known for his shrewd business acumen. Evelyn, a former debutante turned philanthropist, chaired numerous charity organizations and was the driving force behind many of Highland Park's cultural events. She would show up unannounced at Josh's office, claiming she just wanted to surprise him with lunch, but her eyes would dart suspiciously towards his female colleagues. She insisted on access to his email and social media accounts under the guise of planning surprises for him. When he refused, she would alternate between tearful pleas and cold, silent treatments that could last for days. Josh's friends and family began to notice changes in him as well. The once confident and outgoing young man became withdrawn and anxious. He canceled plans more often, always with a vague excuse about Lena not feeling well or having already made plans for them. When he did socialize, Lena was a constant presence at his side, her arm linked possessively through his. The situation came to a head at the annual Highland Park Summer Festival. Josh had been busy with work and arrived separately from Lena. When he finally made it to the event, he found her in an animated conversation with his college friend Ethan. The moment Lena spotted Josh, her demeanor changed. She rushed to his side, plastering on a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Later that evening, in the privacy of their car, Lena exploded. She accused Josh of purposely arriving late to flirt with other women, of planning to leave her for someone else. When Josh tried to calm her down, explaining that he had simply been caught up at work, Lena slapped him hard across the face. The shock of physical violence snapped something in Josh. In that moment, he realized that the woman he had fallen in love with was gone, replaced by someone he barely recognized, and if he was honest with himself, someone he feared. As Lena's tirade continued, Josh made a silent vow to himself. it was time to end this toxic relationship, no matter the cost. The decision to end his relationship with Lena weighed heavily on Josh's mind in the days following the summer festival incident. He knew it wouldn't be easy. Lena's volatile behavior had only escalated over time, and he feared her reaction. Still, he knew it was necessary, not just for his own well-being, but for any hope of a future unmarred by the shadow of emotional abuse. Josh chose a public place for the breakup, the small cafe where they had shared their first official date. He hoped that the presence of others would temper Lena's reaction. It was a warm Tuesday afternoon when he finally mustered the courage to meet her, his heart pounding with a mixture of dread and anticipated relief. Lena arrived at the cafe, her face lighting up at the sight of Josh. She leaned in for a kiss, but he turned his cheek, a gesture that immediately set her on edge. As they sat down, Josh took a deep breath and began to speak. He explained as gently as he could that their relationship had become unhealthy. He talked about the need for trust, for individual space, for a love that uplifted rather than confined. At first, Lena sat in stunned silence, her face a mask of disbelief. Then, as Josh's words sank in, her expression contorted with rage. She stood up abruptly, her chair screeching against the floor, and began to shout. She accused Josh of never truly loving her, of using her and discarding her like all the others. Her voice rose to a fever pitch as she declared that he would regret this, that he would never find anyone who loved him as she did. The cafe had gone silent, all eyes on the unfolding drama. Josh, mortified but resolute, stood up and softly said, "This is exactly why this needs to end, Lena. I'm sorry, but it's over." With that, he walked out of the cafe, leaving a screaming Lena behind. In the days that followed, Josh felt as if a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He changed the locks on his apartment, blocked Lena's number, and informed his workplace security about the situation. He began to reconnect with friends he had neglected, to smile more, to feel like himself again. But even as he embraced his newfound freedom, a nagging worry lingered in the back of his mind. He couldn't shake the memory of the look in Lena's eyes as he left the cafe, a look not of sadness or loss, but of cold, calculating fury. Little did he know that this was just the beginning of a nightmare that would engulf not just him, but his entire family. In the wake of the breakup, Lena Lopez's world collapsed around her. The life she had envisioned with Josh, a life of status, wealth, and what she perceived as his unconditional love, had been ripped away. In her mind, this wasn't just the end of a relationship, it was a betrayal of cosmic proportions. The first few days were a blur of tears and rage. Lena called in sick to work, holding up in her apartment, alternating between sobbing fits and furious tirades to her bewildered friends. She tried repeatedly to contact Josh, calling, texting, emailing, but was met with a wall of silence. His social media accounts, once an open book to her, were now locked, cutting off her last window into his life. As the days turned into weeks, Lena's initial despair morphed into something more sinister. She became convinced that Josh would come back to her if she could just make him see reason. This belief became her new obsession, consuming her every waking moment. Lena began to stalk Josh, learning his routines and tracking his movements. She would park outside his apartment building for hours, watching the comings and goings, hoping for a glimpse of him. When she spotted him at a local restaurant with friends, she lingered outside, peering through the window, her heart racing at the sight of him laughing and seemingly happy without her. Her work at the art gallery suffered as her obsession deepened. She was distracted, prone to mood swings, and often disappeared for long lunches that stretched into hours. Her boss, concerned about her erratic behavior, suggested she take some time off to deal with her personal issues. Lena saw this not as a kindness, but as yet another way Josh had ruined her life. In her more lucid moments, Lena tried to move on. She went on dates set up by well-meaning friends, but each man was found wanting, unable to measure up to the idealized version of Josh she held in her mind. These dates often ended with Lena in tears, comparing every gesture, every word to her memories of Josh. As summer faded into autumn, Lena's fixation took a darker turn. She began to fantasize about ways to win Josh back, scenarios that grew increasingly elaborate and detached from reality. She convinced herself that Josh's family was behind their breakup, that they had poisoned him against her. In her distorted thinking, if she could just eliminate their influence, Josh would come back to her. Lena started to research the Cooper family obsessively, poring over old news articles, social media posts, anything she could find. She created a detailed chart of family members, their relationships, their habits. Her apartment walls became covered with photos, post-it notes, and red string, connecting various pieces of information, a physical manifestation of her unraveling mental state. It was during one of her late-night internet deep dives that Lena stumbled upon the announcement of the upcoming Cooper family gathering. As she stared at the Save the Date post on Evelyn Cooper's social media, a chilling calm settled over her. In that moment, a plan began to form in her mind, a plan that would force Josh to see how much he needed her. A plan that would eliminate all obstacles to their love once and for all. The annual Cooper family gathering was a tradition that stretched back generations, a time for far-flung relatives to reconnect and celebrate their shared heritage. The sprawling Cooper estate on Willow Lane buzzed with activity as caterers, florists, and event planners transformed the already impressive grounds into a wonderland of lights, flowers, and elegant decorations. As the evening progressed, guests moved between the lavishly decorated rooms of the mansion and the beautifully lit gardens. Children played on the manicured lawns, and the atmosphere was one of warmth, celebration, and familial love. Little did the revelers know that among them, hidden in plain sight, was an uninvited guest. Lena Lopez moved silently through the crowd, her eyes cold and determined, following Josh's every move as she waited for the perfect moment to set her plan in motion. The joyous gathering, aware of the danger in their midst, continued to celebrate, blissfully ignorant of the tragedy that was about to unfold. In the weeks leading up to the Cooper family gathering, Lena had meticulously crafted her plan for revenge. Her once stylish apartment had become a war room of sorts, with detailed floor plans of the Cooper estate pinned to the walls and a timeline of the event schedule scrawled on a large whiteboard. Lena's first step had been to secure a position with the catering company hired for the event. Using a false name and forged references, she had easily been hired as a server. This position would give her unfettered access to the house and grounds, allowing her to move about unnoticed. Next, she had gathered her supplies from various hardware stores across the city. She had purchased gasoline, accelerants, and other materials needed to start and spread a fire quickly. She stored these in her car, parked a discreet distance from the Cooper estate. The day before the event, Lena had done a final reconnaissance of the property, noting entry and exit points, the location of fire extinguishers, and potential obstacles to her plan. She had also identified the room where the children would likely be gathered, a detail that brought a twisted smile to her face as she imagined the chaos that would ensue. On the day of the event, Lena arrived early with the other catering staff. As she helped set up, she discreetly placed small containers of accelerants in strategic locations throughout the house, hidden behind curtains and under furniture. She had chosen a time later in the evening to put her plan into action, when the alcohol would be flowing and guards would be down. Lena moved through the crowd during the party, outwardly calm and efficient. Her mind raced with anticipation. Soon she thought Josh would realize what he had lost. Soon he would understand the depth of her love and the consequences of rejecting her. Soon, the Cooper family would pay the price for coming between them. The Cooper family gathering was in full swing when the clock struck 9:30 p.m. The warm summer evening had given way to a gentle twilight, and the estate grounds twinkled with strategically placed lighting. Inside the mansion, the atmosphere was jovial, with clusters of guests engaged in animated conversations. The sound of laughter mingled with the soft strains of classical music from the hired string quartet. Still in her catering uniform, Lena had been biding her time, waiting for the perfect moment to execute her plan. She watched as Josh chatted with a group of cousins near the grand staircase, his easy smile sending a pang of longing through her heart. This sight, rather than dissuading her, only strengthened her resolve. In her twisted logic, she was saving Josh from a family that didn't appreciate her love for him. With practiced nonchalance, Lena made her way to the east wing of the mansion, where she had earlier stashed a bag containing her final supplies. Slipping into a bathroom, she quickly changed out of her uniform and into dark clothing. She pulled on a pair of gloves and tucked her hair under a cap. Her heart raced with a mixture of fear and exhilaration as she emerged, now just another shadow in the dimly lit hallway. Moving swiftly, Lena began to activate her carefully placed incendiary devices. She started in the basement, igniting a blaze that would quickly engulf the lower level and cut off one of the main escape routes. Then she worked her way up, setting fires in the kitchen, the library, and several bedrooms. The first signs that something was amiss came in the form of a faint smell of smoke. Initially dismissed as perhaps an overzealous use of the outdoor fire pit, the scent soon became too strong to ignore. "Fire! Everyone needs to get out now!" Panic erupted almost instantly. Guests who had moments ago been laughing and drinking now pushed and shoved in their desperation to escape. The thick smoke, billowing up from the basement and seeping under doorways, quickly filled the house, reducing visibility and making breathing difficult. In the chaos, families were separated. Children cried out for their parents, while adults frantically searched for loved ones. The fire, fueled by Lena's accelerants, spread with terrifying speed, cutting off escape routes and trapping people in various parts of the house. Josh, coughing and disoriented, struggled to help guide people to safety. He had lost sight of his parents in the chaos and was torn between searching for them and helping others escape. The heat was intense. The roar of the flames was deafening, as they consumed the historic mansion. Outside, the first responders began to arrive. The sirens pierced the night air. Firefighters rushed into the burning building, battling against time and the inferno to save those still trapped inside. Ambulances stood ready to treat the injured, their red and blue lights casting an eerie glow over the scene of devastation. Amidst the chaos, Lena slipped away unnoticed. Her heart pounded with the realization of what she had done. As she drove away from the Cooper estate, she caught sight of the orange glow in her rearview mirror, a testament to the destruction she had wrought. Back at the mansion, the rescue efforts continued late into the night. The once beautiful Cooper home, a symbol of family legacy and joy, now stood as a charred skeleton, smoke rising from its blackened ruins. As the flames were finally brought under control, the true horror of the night's events began to emerge. The celebratory gathering had turned into a nightmare, leaving in its wake a trail of death, injury, and devastation that would forever change the lives of all involved. As dawn broke over Highland Park, the full extent of the tragedy became painfully clear. The Cooper mansion, once a symbol of the family's prosperity and heritage, now stood as a charred husk, wisps of smoke still rising from its blackened frame. The lush gardens, so carefully tended for generations, were trampled and waterlogged from the firefighters' efforts. The human toll was devastating. 3 people had lost their lives in the inferno: Reginald Cooper, who had gone back into the burning house to search for trapped guests; Cooper, the young tech prodigy, who had been overcome by smoke in an upstairs bedroom; and 7-year-old Theo Kavanaugh, a family friend's son, who had been playing hide-and-seek when the fire broke out. Dozens more were injured, some critically, filling the beds of Highland Park General Hospital and neighboring medical centers. As the shock of the event began to subside, questions arose. How had such a devastating fire started and spread so quickly in a house equipped with modern safety features? The Highland Park Police Department, led by seasoned Detective Harriet Donovan, launched a full-scale investigation. Forensic teams combed through the ruins of the mansion, meticulously cataloging evidence. It didn't take long for them to determine that the fire had been deliberately set. Traces of accelerants were found at multiple ignition points throughout the house, pointing to a carefully planned act of arson. Investigators interviewed survivors, piecing together a timeline of the evening's events. Several guests reported seeing an unfamiliar server with brown hair, but in the chaos of the party and the subsequent fire, descriptions were vague and often contradictory. A breakthrough came when one of the catering staff members noticed discrepancies in their equipment inventory. A uniform was missing, and a quick check of the employee records revealed that one of the servers hired for the event didn't match the person who had shown up to work. The police now had a solid lead. Someone had infiltrated the party under false pretenses. As Detective Donovan dug deeper, she uncovered Josh's tumultuous relationship history. Interviews with friends and family painted a picture of a possessive ex-girlfriend who had exhibited stalker-like behavior. When shown a photo of Lena Lopez, several witnesses confirmed seeing someone resembling her at the party, though with different colored hair. Josh, who had suffered smoke inhalation and minor burns, was devastated by the loss of his father and the destruction of his family home. As he recovered in the hospital, the weight of suspicion began to fall on Lena. He recounted to the police the details of their relationship and breakup, filling in crucial pieces of the puzzle. As the investigation progressed, a manhunt for Lena Lopez was launched. Her apartment was found abandoned, with disturbing evidence of her obsession with Josh and the Cooper family. Plastering the walls, the quiet art curator had transformed into the prime suspect in one of the most horrific crimes in Highland Park's history. Lena's car was found abandoned at a bus station 2 towns over, indicating she had fled immediately after the fire. Bus manifests and taxi records were scrutinized, but Lena seemed to have vanished into thin air. The police theorized that she might have had help, prompting them to investigate her friends and acquaintances. As days turned into weeks, sightings of Lena were reported across the country. The breakthrough in the manhunt came 6 months after the fire, when a sharp-eyed motel clerk in a small town in Oregon recognized Lena from a wanted poster. Local police apprehended her without incident, finding her in possession of multiple fake IDs and a journal detailing her obsession with Josh. Lena's trial, with every detail of her relationship with Josh and her subsequent descent into obsession laid bare for the public, captivated the community. Despite her lawyer's efforts to argue for diminished capacity, the jury found Lena guilty on all counts. At the sentencing hearing, the judge delivered her decision. Lena was sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms for the deaths she caused, plus an additional 120 years for attempted murder and other related charges. As she was led away in shackles, Lena showed no remorse. Her twisted obsession had cost her everything, and it had forever altered the lives of the family and the entire community.